All right, good evening, everybody. Today is Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. It is 7 p.m. This meeting of the Hingham Select Board is called to order. This meeting is being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022 and all other applicable laws, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other participants of said recording. Does anyone wish to notify me of a recording this evening? Seeing none, I'd note for the record that participating in tonight's meeting are myself, William Ramsey, Chair, Select Board members Liz Klein and Joe Fisher. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes. I believe we have two sets of minutes tonight for consideration. One is from July 1st, 2022, and the second is from July 5th, 2022. Joe, you ready to proceed?
I'm prepared to proceed.
Liz?
Yes, ready.
Okay, with that, I'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes dated July 1st, 2022.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion passes unanimously.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes dated July 5th, 2022.
Second.
All those in favor. Liz?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. The motion passes unanimously. All right, next item on the agenda is a review and approval of FY22 inter-department and intra-department transfers. So we have a couple to consider this evening. And I do see Sue Nickerson on the line. Sue, good evening to you. You want to walk us through each one? That'd be great.
Sure. Good evening. There's three inter-department transfer and one inter-department transfer. And these happened due to after the meeting that we had for all our reserve fund transfers, the last payroll of the year or unexpected expenses came in after July 1st. We have from July 1st to July 15th to do any kind of transfers before we close the books on time. So the first intra-department transfer is for animal control. It is for a total of $11. And it is transferred from expenses into salaries. And this is just because of the last payroll of the fiscal year is a split payroll, and it was just short by $11. The second one is an intra-department transfer for Bear Cove Park for the same reason. And it's the amount requested is $12, and that is for from Bear Cove Park expenses to Bear Cove Park salaries. The third request is for DPW in the amount of $6,000. And this is transferred from payroll to expenses. And this was due to the unforeseen expenses of painting the new handicap parking space downtown. Those are the three intra-department transfers. Do you want me to go to the inter, or do you want?
Yeah, I believe there's only one for consideration.
There's only one.
So
Yep.
why don't you go to that one now?
Okay. And the one inter-department transfer is for GAR Hall in the amount of $2,279. And we're going to transfer from veteran salaries to GAR Hall expenses. And the reason for the transfer is the invoices came in after the transfers were completed. The invoices were dated in June, but postmarked July 1st.
Okay, Sue, thanks very much. I appreciate that. Let me see if anybody on the board has any questions. So let's start this evening with Liz.
Great. Thanks, Bill. Thank you, Sue, for walking us through those. I don't really have any questions about these transfers, but do you have a sense of if we're expecting any more before the 15th?
We just posted June revenue this morning, and I went through everyone's budget, and there are no more deficits.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Joe.
Sue, great presentation. I've got no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I don't have any questions either, but let me see if anybody in the public would like to ask any questions or offer any comments. Seeing none, I would take a motion.
I move to recommend a fiscal year 22 intra-department transfer from animal control expenses to animal control salaries in the amount of $11.
Second.
All those in favor, Joe,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Motion carries unanimously.
I'll make a motion to recommend an FY22 intra-department transfer from Bear Cove Park expenses to Bear Cove Park salaries in the amount of $12.
Second.
All those in favor, Liz,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Motion carries unanimously.
I move to recommend a fiscal year 22 intra-department transfer from DPW payroll to DPW expenses in the amount of $6,000.
Second.
All those in favor, Joe,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
motion carries unanimously.
I'll make a motion to recommend an FY22 inter-department transfer from veteran salaries to GAR Hall expenses in the amount of $2,279.
Second.
All those in favor, Liz,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously. All right, Sue, thanks very much. Appreciate your help.
Thank you very much.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
You too.
Later. Okay. Next item on the agenda is to consider approval of a special one-day wine and malt beverages license to Barrel House Z for the Ware River Farms Blues at the Red Barn to be held on Saturday, October 8th, with a rain date of Sunday, October 9th, 2022, from 2:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. I believe presenting this evening on this item is Stephanie Aquino. See if I see
Hi,
her.
how are you?
Hello, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm good.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little about the event?
This is my first year doing it, so I don't have any previous knowledge of it, but what I'm told, it's about 300 people in the barn and the outside area, and there'll just be music and food vendors and us. So similar to the Sunset Picnics.
Great. So you said about 300 people?
I believe so, yes. It's not going to be as big as the end of summer and the spring one they did.
Okay. Let me just go to Tom. I don't see the chief of police here this evening, so let me ask Tom. Tom, has the police department reviewed the application? Do they have any concerns or comments on the request?
They have, and they have no concerns.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to questions. Joe, do you have any questions?
I just want to be clear that there is no alternate date. This is for a fixed date. Is that right? On October 8th?
I believe that one is just one date. Yeah, they don't have a rain date for me.
Okay. And so people are satisfied with that, which means that if that doesn't happen,
Yeah.
they would need to come back and we would have to revote the event.
Right.
But otherwise, I am familiar with this. I appreciate the presentation. I've got no other questions.
Liz?
Thank you. No questions or concerns about the event. Just looking at the application, do we need the tips form for this? I don't think I
That
saw it.
should have been sent in.
Okay.
If not, I can provide it, but I believe I attached it to all the applications.
Okay.
There was a lot.
I know. Yes, thank you. I know that is a lot.
Liz, I'll run that through with Sharon. If
Okay.
something is missing, we'll make sure we get it before the event.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
All right, thank you. Let me see if anybody from the public has any questions or comments on this request. All right, seeing no hands raised, I would take a motion.
I move to approve the request for a special one-day wine and malt beverages license to Barrel House Z for the Ware River Farms Blues at the Red Barn to be held on Saturday, October 8, 2022, from 2:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Joe,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously. All right, Stephanie, good luck with your event. Thanks for coming in
Thank you
this evening.
so much.
Thank you.
Take care. All right. Next item on the agenda is to consider approval of a series of special one-day wine and malt beverages license to Burke's Brewing Company Incorporated for the Ware River Farm Summer Picnics to be held on Thursday, August 4th, August 11th, and August 18th, 2022 from 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. and on Thursday, September 1st, 2022 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. I believe Brian Burke is going to present tonight. Brian, I see you there. Go ahead.
I am. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I'm the owner of Burke Tailworks Brewery. We've been invited past summers to attend this event. It's a summer picnic on the farm grounds with food truck, music, and beer, rotating breweries. So generally a fairly quiet, family-friendly event. We have experience running these. I'll be present myself at all of them, along with the tip certified employee.
Brian, how many people do you anticipate attending?
Boy, the ones we've done in the past are varied, depending on the weather. Couple 200, give or take. If it's rainy, overcast, it could be significantly less. I've never seen much more than that at any of the events that we've been present at. Yeah.
All right, thanks very much. Tom,
Sure.
Tom, has the police department reviewed the application? Do they have any concerns?
They have and they do not.
Thank you. All right, let's go to questions from the board. Liz, have any questions?
I don't have any questions. The application looks complete. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Joe?
I just want to make sure that there's been a look at the traffic parking issues and that's everyone's satisfied. Tom, the police chief is satisfied with that?
He is. He's been through this this application and has signed off on all of it.
Okay, great. Thank you. No other questions.
All right, thanks, Joe. Let me see if anybody from the audience has any questions at all. I see no hands raised, so I would entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve a series of special one-day wine and malt beverages license to Burke's Brewing Company Incorporated for the Ware River Farm Summer Picnics to be held on Thursday, August 4th, August 11th, and August 18th, 2022 from 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. and on Thursday, September 1st, 2022 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor by roll call vote. Liz?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously. All right, Brian, good seeing you. Have a great evening.
Thank you. I hope you all have a great evening as well.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is to consider approval of a series of special one-day wine and malt beverages license to WM Brewing Company for Ware River Farms picnics to be held on Thursday, September 8th, September 15th, and September 22nd, 2022 from 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And I believe Colin Foley is going to present this evening on this application. Let me see if I can see him.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Colin, go ahead. You have the floor.
Yeah, so same, I guess, similar type of events as Brian just went over. We did these events last year. We sent 2 staff members that are tip certified to Ware River. I believe it's probably around the same count as Brian said, around 200 attendees, though it does fluctuate depending on rain, heat, all that stuff. Yeah, I don't really have much more to add than what he did with his presentation.
Okay, Tom, any concerns expressed by the police department on this application?
No, although I will note that in their application, they had anticipated 150 attendance, and that's what the police chief signed off on.
Great. Thanks, Tom. All right, let me go to questions from the board. Joe?
Yeah, so I've got the application, and under description of event and parking, it says attached. And I didn't see anything attached that relates to parking. Is there another document that perhaps was not included in our packet?
I don't see it in my packet either. I can ask Sharon for it in the morning, and if there's any concerns, I'll ask the chief, but it would have been part of what the chief reviewed.
Okay.
Colin, you
And this is
submitted
good.
a parking plan?
Yeah, I just I had attached what Ann Francis from the trustees had provided.
Right.
Yeah, I think the chief normally would review parking as part of the application.
He does, yeah.
And if the parking
Yeah.
plan wasn't attached, I think he would note it an objection.
Right.
But why don't we do this? I mean, if you, Joe, if you and Liz are comfortable voting on it, we can vote on it, and we can have Tom, maybe you could follow up with the chief tomorrow to make sure the parking looks in order.
I mean, yeah, this is not, the first time this is happening, but we should just make sure that, we have complete applications when we're reviewing them. It just puts us in an awkward situation. But other than that, I mean, I'm familiar with this. I think this should proceed. Thank you.
Liz, any questions?
Just a question. I think this event involves a bonfire. Is that right?
I don't, not to my knowledge, I don't think they ever had. I believe that's more the, I think like the summer send-off, which I think was on the agenda, but they had pulled it and are going to have it at a later meeting.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure because the name of the event says Weir River Farms Picnics and Bonfire, and I think Chief Murphy usually reviews those as well.
Good
for that event
point.
with the bonfire. We've done that before, but.
On the agenda that I had, Liz, the word bonfire is stricken.
Okay.
So let me just ask, Tom, do you know, I'm assuming that they're not going to have a bonfire with this event, but what do you?
Yeah, there's no bonfire anticipated with this event.
Okay.
Okay. I
Thank
think
you for
maybe
confirming.
initially, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said thank you for confirming.
My read of it, they were considering a bonfire, but they withdrew the request for the bonfire as part of the application.
Okay.
All right. Let me see if anybody from the public has any questions or comments. Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the request for a series of special one-day wine and malt beverages licenses to WM Brewing Company, Inc. for Ware River picnics to be held on Thursday, September 8th, September 15th, and September 22nd, 2022, with rain dates of September 9, September 16, and September 23rd, 2022, from 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously. All right, Colin, good luck with your event.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank
Good
you.
evening. All right, next item on the agenda is a discussion and potential vote regarding the scheduling of a 2022 special town meeting in Warrant. And this is going to start a series of discussions and potential votes on us calling for a special town meeting. So with respect to this item, I want to note a couple things. So this discussion and vote will be done pursuant to Hingham General Bylaws, Article 2, and Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 9. And I'll start off the discussion here, and I'd like to get your thoughts, Liz and Joe, on how to proceed. So obviously, for the last couple annual town meetings, because of COVID and the authority given to us by the governor and the legislature, we have been doing it on Saturday afternoons. So a lot of people have commented they like it, and some people have commented to me that they don't like it. So my suggestion would be is that since we have historically done the meeting, or we've had a town meeting on a Monday night that we would look to a Monday night to potentially have this meeting or call the meeting on that Monday night. So initially, I was going to propose to the board that we look to October 17th, 2022 as a meeting. It's obviously it's right in the middle of October. And, my initial thinking was go back to a Monday night. And, at that point, I was hoping that the permitting boards would have their review done and advisory committee would have enough time to review the permitting board discussion and offer comments in the warrant. So after just, initial discussion of that date, that Monday night date on the 17th, it was initially well received. And then maybe about week or 10, maybe about 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, I was contacted, Tom was contacted, who related to me, was contacted by the permitting boards and advisory saying that the boards would need more time to complete their review. And then the advisory committee would need more time to add their comment to the warrant. They would like, obviously it's a pretty big issue, two big items, and they needed more time to prepare for the town meeting. So I then, was thinking maybe we would do a Monday night in November, because they asked, that we move it to maybe the first or second week of November, knowing that they would be done with the review and AdCom would have plenty of time to review this for us, for the town. So the issue with Monday nights in November are that the first Monday night in November is October 31st, which is Halloween. And I don't think, I wouldn't recommend that we hold a meeting on that night for a lot of different reasons. And then the Monday,
there'd be a lot of candy.
There'd be a lot, yes, there'd be a lot of candy. And then the second Monday night in November is November 7th. And the anticipated problems with that night is that is the Monday before the town election. And historically, town clerk's office has used that Monday to set up the high school gym in the high school as a potential voting area. And I guess the concern there is we would not want to hold a meeting that night to, as it could potentially interfere with setup and holding the election on the 8th. So with that, my recommendation would be that we look to a Tuesday night, November 7th, November 11th. No, November 1st, sorry, Tuesday night, November 1st, because I don't want to delay it to mid or late November simply to have it on a Monday night. I think that would be, it would delay the projects, it would delay the process. And my recommendation would be we not just do it just to have it on a Monday night and kick it over 3 or 4 weeks beyond the time that we need to do it. So my suggestion, and I would like both of your comments on this, is that we hold it on the Tuesday night, which is November 1st. But that's just, my initial thinking. We could look to the middle of November if you want to keep it on a Monday night. I just think it would unnecessarily delay the project and delay the votes on the project simply to have it on Monday night. Let me turn it over to Joe and Liz for comments or considerations. Joe, why don't you go first?
Bill, do you mind if I just jump in just real quick?
Sure,
just
go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify. Where November 8th is the election date. It's the state election date that we're piggybacking on for the debt exclusions. I just wanted to make it clear that we were hopeful to have the town meeting prior to November 8th. That was the other issue that you just forgot. You didn't mention that. I just want to throw that out.
That's a great point. And that's a great point. And also a part of this consideration is we want to have the vote, the town meeting prior to the actual ballot vote on the 8th. And we've been discussing this with Carol and the clerk's office, and we believe that we could have the vote on the 1st and have the ballot vote on the 8th. If we had the ballot vote later that month, it would cost the town significant amount of money. I believe it costs north of $10,000 to hold an election of that type. And I just think it would be unnecessary spending of money when we can do it on the 8th. And again, we've been notified by the permitting boards and advisory that a November 1st date would give them plenty of time to do what they need to do, so the town can have a robust discussion on the items on November 1st. But let me turn it over to you, Joe.
Yep. So I agree with the first point, which is it needs to be held before Election Day. So November 8th is the election day. So we definitely need to have, in my view, need to have the town meeting prior. And I think Halloween, it would be a challenge. I guess for me, the threshold question is whether or not this is going to be an indoor or an outdoor meeting. And to some extent, that will depend on where we are in the COVID situation. If we are in an uptick and people have serious concerns about meeting indoors, then doing a meeting indoors may wind up disenfranchising a significant group of residents because their healthcare providers will tell them don't go. If we're in a situation where, things are relatively calm, then I think an indoor meeting may be appropriate. I suspect that we don't know, at least I certainly don't know, where we're going to be in September, October, November in terms of COVID. I think we're on an uptick now. Not sure where that's going. So I would want to make sure that whatever vote we take now would not preclude us from taking a subsequent vote if the science and the facts indicate that there are real health risks for having an indoor meeting. So I guess this might be a question for our council, whether or not a vote tonight sets this in stone, or whether or not we will have the opportunity to revisit the question as the health situation unfolds.
So Joe, you could revisit the question anytime up to the point when you issue the warrant with the 14 days prior notice. So this would be an initial vote to schedule town meeting. If you changed your mind before the warrant was actually voted, issued, and sent to residents, you could change the date, time, location. Okay.
I mean, so looking at the calendar, so I'd be looking at something like November 1st is a Tuesday, we're not going to do it Halloween on Monday. So I'm thinking either that Saturday or Sunday, the 29th or 30th. And Bill, am I correct that whether it was the 29th of October or the 1st of November, that would not affect whether or not the permitting boards were in a position to have reached a consensus on this?
So what I've been told is the permitting boards would have their work done by then, and then it would just be advisory preparing the comments for the warrant. But I think if we were to move it to the left a day or two, I think that would be sufficient enough time for them to have it done by then.
Yeah. I mean, I've not heard any comments against having a outdoor meeting. It's been welcomed by those who I've spoken with. I know that it's a little awkward to do presentations. You really can't flash anything up on the screen because I'm not sure that we even have a screen that's going to be out there. And so I think it would make the task of those presenting a lot easier to do it inside. I just hate to see the compromise of having a number of residents feel that they cannot attend for health reasons and their vote is lost because we've scheduled it as an indoor meeting. But other than that, I think the timing that you've indicated, Bill, makes a lot of sense. And assuming we're all in a good position from a health standpoint, I would support the November 1st date.
Joe, thank you, Liz.
Thank you. From my perspective, the two greatest priorities are getting the work done. So, as you outlined, Bill, having all of the permitting work complete, giving time to advisory committee to do their due diligence and write the recommendation. Certainly the town depends on that. And then the second priority being just the greatest participation, as many citizens and voters, residents we can get to attend. So we have received mixed feedback about Saturdays, outdoor, indoor, weekdays. I have heard a lot of feedback, asking for going back to a weekday evening, that's more conducive for people's schedules. So I definitely support that. I do think the town meeting should be before the election on the 8th. So I am comfortable with November 1st. As far as COVID, obviously we'll have to see what the latest science and guidance is at the time. But I would be hopeful that we could be inside, even if it's spread out with masks, that we could still proceed. So I'm comfortable with the November 1st date.
Liz, thanks very much. Let me see if anybody from the public would like to offer any comments or have any. I did see a hand up. Hold on. Mr. Estes, go ahead, sir.
How are you? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ray Estes, 92 Fort Hill Street, for the School Building Committee this evening. The only comment that I would make with respect to that particular discussion is that health concerns aside, and I know it's difficult to put health concerns aside because they're very important, but just putting that aside for a moment, the two articles that I think you're proposing for a special town meeting are arguably two of the most important articles that this town will ever consider, or at least to this point, in which we're looking at appropriating around $150–160 million. I'm not sure of the exact numbers yet, but in round numbers. And I think that we want to have as many residents, as many voters to be able to attend the meeting as possible. And I think Saturdays in the fall make that very challenging. There are huge numbers of folks who have kids who play sports, who travel, who are out of town, and who would likely not be able to attend a Saturday afternoon town meeting or a Sunday afternoon town meeting. And that's why the Monday evening or the Tuesday evening, keeping Halloween in perspective, is an intriguing alternative, just because I think you're going to lose a lot of folks on a Saturday or even potentially a Sunday if you chose to have the meeting on the weekend in the fall rather than in the evening like it has been traditionally.
Right. Thank you very much. See if anybody else has any questions or comments.
Bill, I have one other question.
Go ahead.
Do you know if it's possible to set up a hybrid situation for town meeting? Something as simple as at the high school, having it in both inside as well as, like we've done, adjoining rooms, but have one of those adjoining rooms be an outside room. So those who are concerned could be sitting outside, those who are not could be sitting inside.
We could look at that, Joe, from a logistics standpoint and see how that would work. We had to set up for the water company meeting, and we may have to for this one, depending on the number of people we anticipate coming, but we had to set up external locations at the middle school to communicate seamlessly and in a live manner with the moderator on that night, and that was all set up and worked. So I don't see why we couldn't do that again.
Yeah, because I think Ray's point about the sports teams. I mean, I just remember when my son was doing travel soccer, it was really tough to schedule things on a weekday for the town. So I think that is something that we need to keep in mind.
Yeah, we got to figure out the weather issue and how to cover people that sit out there. But yeah,
right.
We can do that.
Great, thank you.
All right, Joe, thank you. Anybody else from the public have any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, let me just do a straw poll here. Liz, do you feel comfortable proceeding?
I do. Thank you.
Joe?
As do I.
Okay, and I would entertain a motion.
I will make a motion. Oops, sorry, Joe.
I know whose turn is it, Liz?
I think it's mine, but
Okay, it is. I think you're right. It is.
Right.
I'll make a motion to call a special town meeting to be held on Tuesday, November 1st, 2022 at 7 p.m. indoors at Hingham High School pursuant to Town of Hingham General Bylaws, Article 2 and Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 9.
I will second it, but I will raise a question. Is it appropriate to include in this vote to do it at the Hingham High School and such other auxiliary locations as may be approved by the Select Board?
I think that's a question for John Coughlin.
Joe, are you thinking about a site off of the high school or just outside on the same property? What are you thinking?
I was actually thinking at the high school, the resolution, the proposed vote specifically is limited to indoors at the high school.
So I think based on your idea of possibly doing a separate room outdoors, I would recommend we just take out the indoor language, remove it from the motion, and just leave it the Hingham High School. I think we had put that in there just because residents had gotten so used to going to the football field, we didn't want to confuse them. But if there's a possibility that we're going to have an indoor and an outdoor simultaneously, I would just remove the indoor word from that motion.
But in the interest of keeping residents informed, I mean, I like your idea. I'm just thinking perhaps it would say, the resolution could say indoors and possibly outdoors at Hingham High School so that they're cued in that it's both options. I'm happy either way.
Could say indoors and or outdoors. It could say both.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it off the top of my head, but I think we had added indoors just for clarity, but if we're thinking about doing something different. Okay.
So just removing it. Okay.
Okay. All right. So John, if you're comfortable with that, what I would do is I would move to strike the previous motion, and I would entertain a motion for reconsideration. Joe, do you want to go ahead, Liz?
And I think just to add to that, Joe, last thought, there'll be a lot of other media announcements, website, lots of places to direct people other than just that specific one.
Right. Yep. So Liz?
Yes.
If you would withdraw your motion and then make a new one, I think that would be the way to proceed.
Okay, so I'll withdraw my motion. And I'll make a motion to call a special town meeting to be held on Tuesday, November 1st, 2022 at 7 p.m. at Hingham High School pursuant to Town of Hingham General Bylaws, Article 2 and Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 9.
Second.
All right, a motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor by roll call vote. Liz?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Now I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda is a discussion and potential vote regarding opening warrant and insertion of select board warrant articles for Foster Elementary School, public safety facility, and or transfer to the stabilization fund into the warrant and to close the warrant for the 2022 special town meeting. So now that we've set the date, and the date and the time of the meeting, we'll look to what we're going to discuss at the meeting. So I would note that this discussion is pursuant to Hingham General Bylaws, Article 2, and all other applicable laws. And I think specifically the three items that we're going to, what I recommend we discuss this evening, would be the Foster School borrowing, the public safety facility borrowing, and lastly, setting aside a portion to be determined of unassigned fund balance in a new capital project cost and debt service stabilization fund to be used to offset debt service for these two projects. So I'm going to have Michelle speak to the last one, and then we'll circle back for A and B. But with respect to the last article, which would be Article C, the intent of this article, as we've been discussing for many years now, was that we would use a portion of fund balance above the 20% of our fiscal policy recommended amount in the fund balance to help to offset the tax impacts of these two projects. And, you know, for years, people have been asking the board and asking us, you know, why do we have all of this money in our reserve fund, in our savings account? And I think the plan has been for years to use that fund balance above the 20% to help taxpayers with the cost of these two projects. My understanding, and I'm going to ask Michelle to speak more to this, is above the 20% would be about $7 million. And that $7 million would, again, go toward helping taxpayers to handle the impacts of these two projects. But let's start with that one first. Michelle, could you give us a little more context of this recommendation and how this would work?
Sure. Thanks, Bill. I think you covered a lot of it. As you mentioned, I think the town for many years has talked about using our savings account to offset the tax impact of these projects, because we know that that tax impact, at least in the initial few years, would be large. A number of months ago, I think in the last budget process, we did some presentations where we talked about potentially using up to $7 million in that excess unassigned fund balance above the 20% Bill mentioned, to pay some of the debt service costs for these projects, because we anticipate that the first few years of the debt service before other debt that we're currently paying retires might create a bit of a spike in people's bills. And so we would use, this article is basically formally setting aside an amount of unassigned fund balance to be used for that purpose. We're taking an additional step of, we've been saying we're going to use it for this, but now we're setting it aside for this purpose. And speaking with town council, John, and our bond counsel, Rick Manley, we talked about creating this new stabilization fund to make sure that this money was separate from the previous stabilization fund that we already have. And you don't see a dollar amount in this article here. That would be determined by the advisory committee as they undertake their review over the next few months with us. But you're correct that we had talked about moving up to $7 million aside for these purposes.
Michelle, thanks very much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a board question and discussions on the articles, and I'll open it up to the public to see anybody from the public has any questions or comments. So with that, why don't we start there? Joe or Liz, do you have any questions for Michelle? Michelle, we'll start with Joe.
So Michelle and quite frankly, Bill, that was a great presentation. So thank you. How do I put this? It sounds like we'd be taking $7 million to apply to lessen the tax burden of the borrowing. Is that a good summary?
So it's not that we're reducing the amount we borrow with these funds. We would still borrow the full amount for the two projects.
Correct.
But we're changing the funding source. We're changing how we're paying the debt service back for the first few years. Instead of it coming from people's taxes, it would come from our savings account, essentially.
Right, but the alternative is to use a savings account just to lessen the dollar amount that we're borrowing. My understanding is that the reason we want to go this way is that if we were to do that, reduce the borrowing by $7 million, the impact, which we amortized over a good number of years, 20 plus years, would really not be felt by residents, but the alternative is to use the $7 million up front over a period of, I don't know, was it 1 or 2 years, really to have a direct benefit, and so that the residents could feel the reduction in what they're paying, at least during the initial years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And over how many years would we be using the $7 million?
It will depend on how the construction, assuming both of these projects go forward, it will depend on the construction timeline and how quickly we borrow those funds long term. But when we did some earlier projections, we thought it would likely hit in FY 26, 27, and 28 is when you'd see the biggest spike in tax bills before some debt that the town's currently paying retires in 29. So we would aim at using this money over those first initial 3-ish years to kind of cut off that peak in people's tax bills.
Yep. And I've seen the peak. And I think it makes sense to smooth it out, to reduce it. And I am in full support of this approach. No other questions or comments.
Joe, thank you. Liz?
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Michelle. So I know we've talked about this in the past, and this has been kind of the expectation set that we would try to provide any sort of tax relief that we could, knowing these big capital projects were coming. And this was one of those approaches. And I know during the Sustainable Budget Task Force process, we did modeling, making some of these assumptions just to see what that would look like. And Michelle, can you explain or just even give us an idea of when we might have a better idea of the tax impact? So when we look at the models of, what the taxpayer will pay for each of the capital projects, for each debt exclusion, and how this offset would work, do you know that yet? Or do you know when we'll have a better picture to give people about that?
So I think we do have the latest, project estimates for both projects. I think at a future board meeting, we'll need some time to put together some scenarios for you guys internally, but that at a future select board meeting or meetings and AdCom meeting or meetings, we'll talk about some of those scenarios in terms of how we structure the debt. I think some of those decisions are still in front of the board in terms of what's the period of time that we're recommending we borrow for these projects, 20, 25, 30 years. 30 years is the maximum for both of them. And then how you want to restructure that repayment of debt, whether it's level principal payments, which upfront the cost a bit more, but save interest costs overall, whether it's level payment, repayment, where it sort of spreads it out more equally or equitably among people, but the interest is then higher overall for the project. So we'll need to do some of those scenarios, and we'll definitely come back to the board this summer so you guys can consider what might make sense for these projects.
Okay. Okay.
And that all of those decisions, will immediately then impact how we calculate the tax impact, because we need those two pieces of information, the term we expect to borrow over and how the repayment is structured. And then we can run it through some of our models and give people a sense based on different assessed values of how it might impact them.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you. And I do like setting up this separate stabilization fund and, just kind of showing our continued commitment to going with this approach. I think a question though taxpayers might have is, what's the benefit of putting this money in this account? Or is there any detriment from, an interest perspective? Does it make sense to keep all of the money in unassigned fund balance? Does it not matter? Are there pros and cons of doing that? Sure.
So I think some of the idea was to, we've had this plan forever. Like Bill said, this has always been the plan to use this money in this way. And this is a nod to that plan to tell the community that it's not, we're setting it aside as we had anticipated doing. If it stays in unassigned fund balance, I think there might be a sense that it's available for other projects. And I don't think that's the plan or has been what the town has talked about doing. So segregating it, I think, is the right thing to do. And then remember too, that once it's set aside by town meeting, we would need town meeting approval to spend out of it. So when we get to the point where we're ready to start using it to offset the tax impacts, then we would go back to town meeting at that year's annual and request permission to do so.
Okay. Okay, great. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
Liz, thank you. Thank you, Tom. All right. So I think what I'm going to do is continuing board questions and discussion. And again, we'll go through these and then I'll open it up for public comment or questions. But let's get through this together as a board first. So let's go back to Article A. Article A is a discussion of borrowing for the Foster School. Last week, we heard a very good and very detailed presentation from the building committee regarding what their vision is for a new school. I think anyone who has toured that school or seen that school realizes that the time has come for this community to do something about the school. I certainly have a lot of knowledge of that school. I went to that school in the 80s. My children go to that school. I've been in and out of that school a lot in the last couple of years. And I'm a firm believer that structurally that school is inadequate for the children that attend it. I'm also a firm believer that in many ways, the educational experience of the children attending that school is subpar to other schools in town. So I think it's time for us to do something about this as a community. I know that we've had a pretty long discussion about this over years. The town has waited for this time and for this moment to move forward with this, given we are acceptance into the MSBA pipeline for additional state funding. But based on the presentation that I saw last week, and again, which was excellent, I think we are, as a town and a community, should move forward with this project. But let me see what my colleagues think. So Liz, why don't you go first?
Sure. Thanks, Bill. I fully support this project and rebuilding Foster School. Certainly, I have toured the building as well. And, we knew this needed to be done years ago. So fully support this moving forward as quickly as and efficiently as it can. I was very thankful to hear the presentation last week. Ray did a great job. The building committee has certainly done a tremendous amount of work, but it was nice to get, I knew that was happening, but it was nice to get a status update to really feel confident that we're in a good place, the design is in a good place, and that, the questions that we asked all have answers, and certainly it'll still go through the permitting process, but I do feel confident where the project is right now, and definitely support voting on it at the special town meeting.
Joe.
I agree with Liz. We've had the opportunity and will continue to have the opportunity to ask the questions about the project, but the building committee's got the answers. They're doing the due diligence. They've done the work. And ultimately, we absolutely need to do something about Foster School. And that the time to act, Bill, as you said, is now. The time to act was, last year. But, we're moving forward now with all deliberate speed, and we should do nothing to impede that speed. So I think moving forward at the upcoming special town meeting makes sense. And I know that we're going to have work cut out to make sure that the residents are fully informed, not only about the needs, about the costs, about the financing, and I'm on board to make sure that all of that happens. So I've got no further comments on this.
All right, thank you both. All right, suggested Article B relates to borrowing for a potential public safety facility. We also heard from that building committee last week. And again, I think that committee has done an excellent job in addressing the needs of what will go into that building. They've also done an excellent job with working with other stakeholders in town to address concerns. And they've done an excellent job with keeping costs down, as have both committees have done well in those areas. So in my support for this building really lies in the fact that I do not believe that our firefighters should remain working at the West Hingham Fire Station. I've toured it twice, spoke with the chief, the fire chief, I spoke with the firefighters that work there. I believe that although a beautiful historic building, that building's time has come and gone. I'm concerned about the resources there. I'm concerned about the living quarters. I'm concerned about the ability of fire trucks to move in and out of that building. And what worked in the 1950s doesn't work today. So that's always been my primary reason for supporting this project. Additionally, I've toured the police station many times, spoken with the police officers who work there and the chief, and I do believe that they have outgrown that area. So the fact that we can move our West Hingham firefighters into this building, the fact that we can move our police department and the police headquarters into that building, as well as the fire headquarters, will allow us to look at town hall for other options. One of the options is potentially expand our senior center, or expand other departments within town hall, and that'll be discussion we'll be having in the coming months. But that's going to give us more space at town hall. But I do think that this would help the town address a lot of concerns, primarily the issues with the West Hingham Fire Station and the needs of our police department. So that's really my basis of support for this project. And again, I think both committees have done a great job, but the building committee has made a good presentation last week as well. But let me see what my colleagues think. Joe, we'll go to you.
Sure. I agree, Bill, with what you've said. I'd add that the North Fire Station cannot even handle some of the fire trucks that we have. And this is the station that would be responsible for the new Foster School. And I think we need to be moving in tandem to make sure after that building's built that it's got the right backup from the fire department to take care of business if and when it's needed. I think that the health of our firefighters absolutely demands that we move to another location. And I think that the police department, I've done the tour, we really need to enhance what's there, and moving to the new location makes sense. And for me, it's a priority because of the needs of the senior center. I view the needs of the senior center as right up top as what we need to address. I think they have been patient, and we need to move forward with expanding the space that's available at Town Hall so we can absolutely address the needs of our seniors. So I think, again, Bill, you've hit the nail on the head. This is the right time. This is the right project, and we should move forward.
Joe, thank you. Liz.
Thank you both. I agree with what's been said so far. I certainly feel that a public safety facility, a new public safety facility is critical based on our current facilities, current working conditions. I think it's, after seeing the fire station as well as the police station, it becomes very obvious that to have a modern public safety professionals and a public safety force, it needs the facilities as well. In addition to, making more room at Town Hall and making more room for an expanded senior center is certainly a priority for me. And Bob, thank you for the presentation last week. It was very helpful to, again, see kind of the status update. I know a lot of work has been done over many years. And I feel confident that the needs and the requests of the Fire Chief Murphy and Police Chief Jones have been taken into account, as well as looking into the future and how both of those professions are changing and being able to meet the needs with the site. I know you've also worked very closely with Net Zero and other stakeholders in town to make sure that it really meets the goals we have across the town. So I feel comfortable where the building committee is, where the design is, and certainly want to see this moving forward this fall as well.
Liz, thank you. And I do want to note a couple of other items here with respect to the recommended motion this evening. The board will take one vote to open the warrant, insert all three articles, and potentially close the warrant this evening. The same vote will also direct the town administrator to post the articles on the town website and to forward the articles to the advisory committee within 10 days. And lastly, if the vote does pass tonight, we would be looking, given the November 1st special town meeting date, we'd be looking to deliver to households a copy of the warrant by Tuesday, October 18th, which would be 14 days before the meeting. I just wanted to note that before we move forward today. Let me see if there's any public comment or questions. Okay, I see no hands raised. With that, we'll return to our deliberations. Joe and Liz, do you feel comfortable moving forward? Joe?
I do. I just want to ask Tom a question. So our general bylaw, in addition to requiring posting after we vote, there is also a posting requirement prior to our vote. I just want to make sure that that posting occurred in accordance with our general bylaw.
Michelle, you were here.
So are you referring to the notice about the closing of the warrant?
Yes.
Yes, that was posted on Friday when we posted this agenda. So that has been posted in accordance with the bylaw.
Okay, and then second, my understanding is that Articles A, B, and C, that this is not a sense of our priority, and that I think B, A, B, and C were just assigned alphabetically in terms of how these proposals are being presented. It's not necessarily how they'll be presented at town meeting. But that's something that I think we'll need to have a discussion on. But for these purposes, I think it makes sense. We've got an A, B, and C, and it's in alphabetical order. And that's my understanding of how this arrived at, not as a priority issue.
That's right. Just as we do with the annual town meeting, we assign letter article indicators until such time as the warrant has been finalized.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Okay, Liz, are you comfortable moving forward?
I am, thank you.
Okay, but this is what I'm going to recommend. We have 3 articles and then some vote language. So what I would do is, Liz, if you can take Article A, Joe, you take B, I'll take C, and then I'll close it with the motion. So Liz, why don't you go ahead?
I will make a motion to open the warrant for the special town meeting and insert the following articles. Article A, will the town raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds an amount of money to be expended under the direction of the 2017 School Building Committee for professional fees, constructing, equipping, and furnishing a new elementary school to replace the existing William L. Foster Elementary School located at 55 Downer Avenue, Hingham, Massachusetts, Lot 1 on Assessor's Map 38. Which school facility shall have an anticipated useful life as an educational facility for the instruction of school children of at least 50 years, and for which the town may be eligible for a school construction grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA. The town acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need as determined by the MSBA, and any project cost the town incurs in excess of any grant approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the town. Any grant that the town may receive from the MSBA for the project shall not exceed the lesser of 1, the MSBA approved percentage of approximately 40.54% of eligible approved project costs as determined by the MSBA, or 2, the total maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA, or act on anything relating thereto.
Article B, will the town raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds an amount of money to be expended under the direction of the Select Board to be used to pay for professional fees, constructing equipment, and furnishing a new public safety facility located at 335 Lincoln Street, Hingham, Massachusetts, or act on anything relating thereto.
Article C, will the town transfer an amount of money from available reserves into a capital project cost and debt service stabilization fund established hereby under Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5, for the purpose of paying debt service payments for the excluded debt notes and or bonds to be issued for the new public safety facility and or the new Foster Elementary School in order to reduce the need to raise these funds to the annual tax rate or for any other lawful purpose or act on anything related thereto, and to close the warrant for the special town meeting on Tuesday, July 12, 2022, and to direct the town administrator to forward copies of the articles to the advisory committee and to post them on the town's website within 10 days of this vote under Town of Hingham General Bylaws, Article 2, and all other applicable laws.
So that motion having been deemed to be made by Liz, I second that motion.
The motion's been made and seconded. Is there a need for further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor by roll call vote signify by saying aye. Liz?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously. Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is a discussion and potential vote to include local debt exclusion questions on the ballot for the November 8th, 2022 state election regarding Foster Elementary School and the public safety facility. So what this item basically relates to is a reference to Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C, and all other applicable laws. And it's just a discussion and potential vote to include local debt exclusion questions on the ballot for the November 8th, 2022 state election regarding the Foster Elementary School and the public safety facility. The debt exclusion procedures, as many of us know, require a 2/3 vote at town meeting. And it also requires a majority vote at the ballot. I would note under the law that only the select board can add debt exclusion questions to a ballot. And ballot question language is prescribed by the state, and the language that we're going to consider this evening was drafted by our town council, John Coughlin. And the board will discuss adding the 2 ballot questions to the state fall election. So with that, this is just to add these votes to the ballot. We've discussed the votes in detail, obviously, and I think the timing makes sense. As I said earlier, with the state election on November 8th, it would not be, I don't think it would be wise of us to move off that date for a lot of different reasons, particularly cost. As I said earlier, I believe elections of this nature would cost the town upwards of over $10,000, and we have an election right in the same time frame where we can hold the town meeting on the 1st and then the state election on the 8th. So those are my initial thoughts on this issue, but let me turn over to Liz to see what you think about it.
I agree, Bill. I mean, just as you've said, but just to reinforce a reminder for people that it does require a vote at town meeting and then a vote at the ballot on election day. And I think it does make sense to do it in that sequence, the town meeting on November 1st, have these ballot questions on the state ballot on the 8th. I mentioned, participation and voter engagement is certainly a priority for me. And I think that that's our best chance of getting the most people on that date. Hopefully people are planning on voting anyways. I wish the language was a little easier to read, but I know we're bound by the state law here in terms of how we have to word the ballot. So just encourage people to, we'll be talking about this again, but encourage people to kind of understand and get comfortable with the language that they'll see on the ballot.
Joe.
Yes, I agree. The language is not necessarily easy to read or understand. And so we have a communication task to make sure that people do understand. My understanding with respect to the timing is that the ballots will be printed prior to town meeting. Regardless of what happens at town meeting, these questions will be on the ballot. It's just a question about whether or not people have the opportunity to vote at the ballot based upon what happens at town meeting. So in a worst case, town meeting does not approve these items, they'll still be on the ballot, but the vote wouldn't count. Hopefully it's approved at town meeting and then the vote absolutely does count. And Bill, you're right. I think we got to capitalize on November 8th, do it all at one time. So I'm absolutely comfortable moving forward with including this on the November 8th ballot.
Thank you. And I also want to note that the suggested vote this evening would also direct the town clerk to file an attested copy of this vote with the Secretary of State's office, and that would happen before August 3rd of 2022. Right. So With that, let me just see if anybody from the public has any questions or comments. Okay, I see no hands raised. And before we take the vote, I want to add one final point of discussion. As you know, I said last week, our discussion last week started what will be almost weekly or regular discussions about this town meeting from now until the actual town meeting date. And I want to note that we do plan, Michelle talked about this, Liz asked about this, and so did Joe. We do plan to have future meetings where we do explain the cost impact of what these projects will do to somebody's taxes, how much each project would cost, and let people know upfront the impacts of these projects. We're also going to continue to talk about the needs of these projects as well. But do want to let everybody know that discussion tonight, last week, just kicked off a series of meetings that we plan to have scheduled through town meeting. We also plan to have a couple public information sessions where we will meet the public outside of this forum of select board meeting. And we will answer any and all questions everybody has. We plan to be as transparent as possible regarding these projects and the cost of these projects and how they will impact people's taxes and also the needs for the project. So I just want to let people know that that the votes tonight don't end the discussion. The meeting last week kind of kicked it off as we move toward November 1st, 2022. So with that, I would end discussion and entertain a motion. I think this vote is a lot more manageable. So why don't we just have one person do it?
Sure.
Bill, Joe, this is John, just quickly.
John, go ahead.
I'm just looking at the votes quickly, and I don't know what version you have compared to what I have, but in the second ballot question regarding the construction of the public safety facility, the term bond should have an S. It should be bonds and not just bond. I know on the first one it says bonds. I just want to make sure the second one says bonds with an S.
Yeah.
There may be multiple bonds issued over time. I just want to make sure both ballot questions are identical.
Got it. Okay, so with that, I move pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21C, and all other applicable laws, to place the following local debt exclusion questions regarding Foster Elementary School and the public safety facility upon the official ballot for the November 8th, 2022 state election. 1. Shall the town of Hingham be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 1/2, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the bonds issued in order to pay the costs of professional fees, constructing, equipping, and furnishing a new elementary school to replace the existing William L. Foster Elementary School located at 55 Downer Avenue, Hingham, Massachusetts, Lot 1, on Assessor's Map 38. 2. Shall the town of Hingham be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 1/2, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the bonds issued in order to pay the costs of professional fees, constructing, equipping, and furnishing a new public safety facility located at 335 Lincoln Street, Hingham, Massachusetts, and to direct the town clerk to file an attested copy of this vote with the state secretary by August 3rd, 2022.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there need for further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor by roll call vote signify by saying aye. Joe?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is to waive permit application fees for the South Shore Country Club Town Pool, Foster Elementary School, and public safety projects. So this motion kind of comes to us for a couple different reasons. I'll explain it real quick and then we'll open it up for questions. But the country club pool is being funded through the town meeting vote that we took last spring and our citizenry's tax money. The Foster Elementary School and public safety facility projects will also be funded by our citizenry's tax money. To charge money for the permits would basically be charging ourselves these fees. So if we were to charge the permitting fees for the pool, the school, or the public safety building, we basically will be charging ourselves the money. So, I mean, I don't think it makes any sense to basically charge one fee and pay ourselves the money back. And it's better to waive it because it comes out of taxpayer money. Michelle, can you add to that, or maybe does that make sense with how I explained it?
I do think that makes sense. And because all three of the projects that you just mentioned, the pool's debt exclusion has already passed, we're proposing debt exclusions for these next two. It doesn't make sense to raise additional taxes for the permit fees when you're right that it's going from, one general fund source to another general fund use in the town.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Joe, any questions?
Yeah, I agree with this, but I just want to make sure that we've covered costs, because the fees are used by the permitting boards to cover the expenses associated with reviewing the projects. And so those expenses will have to be borne. And I just want to make sure that we've got the appropriate resources in place to pay for them if they're not going to be paid by the fees.
So my understanding is, and Tom, you can speak to this as well, is that the fees associated with these applications go into a fund maintained by the building department. And that fund generally pays for salaries and any equipment needed by our building inspectors or within the department for the work that they do. And I just had a very brief conversation this morning about that fund and the status of it. And the fund looks to be pretty stable to me. And the additional revenue that would come from these projects is not vital to the existence or the maintenance or the continued operations of the building department. Tom, you want to add anything?
That was well said, Bill. That's exactly right.
Did I answer your question, Joe?
I think it answered partially. So I don't know if those fees also are used to, and Ray may be able to assist us here, but I don't know if those fees are used to pay, for example, for the cost of reviewers, whether there are publication costs when notices go out. So I think it is for more than just salaries, but I could be mistaken. So maybe Ray can help us.
Ray, if you know the answer, go ahead.
Thank you. Ray Estes, 92 Fort Hill Street for the School Building Committee. I can't speak for Bob, but I think I can speak for Bob. I believe that his budget is likely similar to our budget in that it will cover professional fees for peer review, engineering, and things of that nature that the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, any other permitting boards may charge to third-party engineer reviewers or any other associated costs like that. Those are built into our project budgets as soft costs, if you will. And I believe that Bob's budget probably carries those line items just like ours does.
The way I hear it, the way I think of it, Joe, is these fees are being waived on the municipal fees, not the peer review fees. If that,
Got it.
That speaks to it more directly.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Tom. Bob, you want to add anything? I think you're still muted, Bob, but just kind of wave your hand if you want to add anything. If you're sitting, here we go. Go ahead, Bob.
I agree with Ray. Yeah, no, any kind of consultant fees related to the permitting process or the getting any of the permits or the inspections are included as soft costs in our budget.
Excellent. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Ray. Thanks, Tom. Joe, anything else?
No.
Liz, any questions?
No questions. I'm comfortable with this. I think it makes a lot of sense for these town projects. But I appreciate the explanation that any external vendors are being budgeted for. So we won't have to kind of find that money somewhere else. But I think it makes a lot of sense for our internal permitting process to be waived. The fees to be waived, not the process.
Excellent. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. All right, with that, I'll take a motion.
I will make a motion to waive the town permit fees associated with the South Shore Country Club Town Pool, Foster Elementary School, and the Public Safety Facility projects.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call vote, Liz.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda are appointments. Believe we have some recommended appointments this evening. Want to note that we did conduct several nights of interviews for various town committees that we appoint as a board. We also were joined by our moderator, Michael Puzo, and he also interviewed at the same time candidates for boards that he appoints. So we did receive a great amount of very talented, very dedicated, very passionate applicants. And I want to thank everybody for applying for these different positions. And I believe tonight can probably be the first night of several appointments we'll make throughout the month of July and possibly into August to try to fill some of the vacancies we have on the various town boards. So with that, Joe, if Liz, you'd like to add anything?
No, I just want to thank everyone who did come out and visit with us. I think I speak for the board that we were in awe of the people who came and their willingness to contribute their talent and their time to the town.
Liz, want anything?
Yes, extremely grateful for the people that stepped forward and applied and took the time to meet with us. It was a nice cross-section of people that have lived here for generations and new people to town wanting to get involved. So that was exciting to see. But certainly very impressed with all of the candidates.
All right, with that then, we'll consider some appointments this evening. And why don't we just alternate, Liz, if you don't mind starting us off, and then followed by Joe, and we'll go down if you all have any recommendations, that'd be great. So,
Sure. Did you want to start, Joe?
No, I think you're going to start.
Okay. I will make a motion to appoint Elizabeth Cullen to the Affordable Housing Trust for a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor by roll call vote, Liz.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously.
I move to appoint Carol Waite to the Beautification Commission to fill an unexpired term ending June 30, 2023.
Second.
All those in favor, Joe.
Aye.
Liz.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Motion carries unanimously.
I will make a motion to appoint John Lawler to the Cable TV Advisory Committee for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor, Liz.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously.
I move to appoint Jane McGrath to the Commission on Disabilities for a 3-year term ending June 30, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor, Joe.
Aye.
Liz.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously.
I will make a motion to appoint Christine Conley to the Council on Aging to fill an unexpired term ending June 30th, 2023.
Second.
All those in favor, Liz.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously.
I move to appoint Mike Tesler to the Development and Industrial Commission to fill an unexpired term ending June 30, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor, Joe.
Aye.
Liz.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously.
I will make a motion to appoint James Byrne to the Energy Action Committee for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Liz.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously.
I move to appoint Eric Szyminski as the at-large alternate member to the Historic Districts Commission to fill an unexpired term ending June 30, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Joe?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously.
I will make a motion to appoint Brendan Kincannon to the Historical Commission for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor, Liz?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously.
I move to appoint Susan Stone and Chandris Gazira to the Taxation Aid Committee.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Joe?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
And I'm as aye as well. The motion carries unanimously.
I will make a motion to appoint Charles Culpin to the Weir River Water System Citizens Advisory Board to fill an unexpired term ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Liz?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously.
Bill, I have just a point of information. I note on our vote for the Taxation Aid Committee, there was no term indicated in that vote. I just asked Michelle or Tom if that is correct.
We did look back at previous votes and did not see any terms specified.
So are persons appointed for life, or what is this? What is the status of an appointment?
They are appointed until they no longer wish to serve, but we can do some work, and we tried to find the original vote. The statute doesn't specify any terms, and we were looking for a vote. Arch nodding his head, he may have more information, looking for a vote for the town accepting it, but the statute itself didn't outline any terms for the 5 members.
Is there anything in the statute or in the bylaws that would preclude this body, when we do the vote, to include a term?
I don't know the answer to that question. We can check with council.
Maybe, because I mean, typically for almost every board, it's a 3-year term. And so I would feel comfortable making these appointments for the 3-year term unless there's a statutory reason that we can't do that.
We can look at that, Joe.
Okay.
I might be incorrect on this. My understanding is when we don't put a term on it, the citizens serve on the committee till the select board dissolves that committee. I remember I was on a committee years ago, and I just got notification one afternoon that the committee had been dissolved, and I had not been appointed to a term of years. So maybe that's the answer, but we can have maybe Tom or Michelle check with council and verify that.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, next item on the agenda is public comment. Let me see if anybody this evening would like to offer any public comments or ask any questions. I do not see anyone with a hand up. So moving on, the next item on the agenda will be Town Administrator Select Board Reports. So Art, would you like to start us off this evening?
Good evening. I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Michelle?
Nothing for me this evening. Thank you.
Tom, go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much, Bill. If you don't mind indulging me, I have something I'd like to read regarding yesterday's, the events of yesterday. So, we were all shocked, I think, by the house fire up on Man Street yesterday. The response to this devastating fire by the Hingham Fire Department and our mutual aid communities was professional and even heroic. I think upon notice of the fire from the South Shore Regional Emergency Communications Center, or SHREC, which is Hingham's 911 dispatchers, the fire department response team was immediately underway. On the way to the scene, seeing the smoke, the amount of smoke in the air, Deputy Levinson called a second alarm before even arriving to the fire. Shortly after the initial setup at 4 Man Street, both the Hingham ladder truck and an engine had to back up due to the intense heat generated by that house fire. In fact, the ladder truck even suffered a melted seat and other minor damage from over 200 feet away due to the heat. Due to number 4 man being fully engulfed, the department immediately initiated defensive tactics to save number 2 man Street and other exposures in the neighborhood. Ultimately, Chief Murphy called 4 total alarms. A total of 5 homes were damaged, including 1 total loss and another home designated unlivable until further inspections can be completed. On scene, there was significant seamless teamwork by Hingham Town Departments. The Hingham Police Department and DPW provided assistance with setting a perimeter and helping with nearby evacuations. The Weir River Water System Superintendent was consulted on hydrant capacity. The Hingham Municipal Light Department shut off power to the neighborhood, and the building commissioner assisted with assessing the safety of the damaged buildings. And as I was on vacation, Michelle Monsegur and Art Robert in my office were busy working on public messaging with our communications consultant, JGPR. If not for the extreme professionalism and bravery of our fire department personnel, this incident could have resulted in a very different outcome. There were no injuries, and significant damage, while devastating for those families, was limited to the 2 homes mentioned above. The high winds and intense heat could have easily resulted in significantly more loss of property and potentially even lives. We are truly fortunate in Hingham to be protected by the men and women of the Hingham Fire Department. That's what I have, Joe.
Tom, well said. Thank you for that. Excellent. Joe, Liz, do you have any questions for Tom this evening?
Nope.
No questions. Certainly, it was a heroic effort. Appreciate all of the work of the Hingham Fire Department, Police Department, and as you mentioned, Tom, the other communities that supported us, as well as I think seeing the coordinated efforts of not only the Fire Department, Police Department, DPW, HMLP, and Weir River Water System. That it brings tremendous value to our community, and certainly I think helped have a positive outcome in terms of no injuries or loss of life. So we're certainly grateful for that.
Thank you. All right, we will move to select board reports. Joe, do you want to start this evening?
Sure. And actually, my first report would be a question. Where are we in terms of the status of being able to continue to hold remote Zoom meetings for this board and other town boards? The deadline is coming up July 15th. And I thought the public should get an update on where we stand for that.
Yeah, so we've not received any notice that anything is passed yet. We understand the Senate and House are working on it, but no final word as yet.
Okay.
I will note that these things often with the legislature come down to the last minute, so I'm not surprised.
Okay, and I'm sure we'll all be updated when there's new information. And then for those of us with French connections, in 2 days, it's Bastille Day, Revolution celebration in France. Just noting that we had our July 4th, and in France, they're having Bastille Day coming up. That's it. Thank you.
Liz.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to note briefly, Liz, you mentioned it, Tom, you mentioned it as well, but I want to offer this with our sincere thanks. Approximately 120 firefighters from 9 communities responded to the scene yesterday. These included firefighters from Hull, Cohasset, Norwell, Situate, Rockland, Weymouth, Quincy, Braintree, and Hanover. Also to note that there were fire chiefs from Brockton and Whitman who also responded to provide assistance, and the Abington Fire Department very kindly provided station coverage while Hingham Fire Department and other units were down fighting that fire. We've all seen the pictures of that fire. It was truly unbelievable. I saw the pictures today of the equipment that Tom referenced. the equipment on the fire trucks was literally burnt, melted into the actual apparatus from hundreds of feet away. That was a phenomenal effort by our fire department, heroic, as Tom said. My understanding is, based on the information I received today, was in efforts to save the second house, there were firefighters in the attic. So they actually went inside fighting that fire. And I can only imagine what that was like, given the temperatures of the fire, the temperatures outside, the winds, and where how close those houses are located to each other. So the fire department did a phenomenal job, assisted by Hingham PD, DPW, Hingham Light, and everyone, Ware River Water. Everybody, was a full team effort. And lastly, I wanted to note that, with the families that lost their house and those displaced by the fire are certainly in all of our thoughts this evening. That is an absolutely horrific thing to have to deal with. And my understanding is they have small children as well. So thinking of them this evening, but grateful for the work of our town first responders. So with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So
I move we adjourn. Oh, second.
Joe.
Second. Aye.
Liz.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Hope everybody has a great week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good vacation, Liz.
Bye.
Thank you.